Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about asynchronous machine learning inference with AWS SageMaker. So first of all, what is the difference between an asynchronous endpoint and a real-time endpoint? In a real-time endpoint, users send the request to the endpoint. Here is an image that user wants to know whether it's a cat or dog. And after processing this input by the machine learning model, endpoint send back the user the prediction result right away, means as soon as the processing is finished. But in an asynchronous endpoint, things are more complicated. In fact, when users submit their request to the endpoint doesn't send back the result, and it only send back an address. The result that will be placed in that address. And endpoint put their request in an internal queue where it will be submitted to other instances that will be processed in their instance. And after the process is finished, they will be placed in the location. It's an S3 bucket, and user has that S3 bucket address and can check for its existence, that whether it is finished or not. There are some other features for an async endpoint in AWS. For example, there's something called auto-scaling policy, where it adds or removes the number of instances that process the incoming inputs based on the number of inputs waiting in the queue. And there's some other feature, it's called an SNS notification system, where user can be notified when the processing of its input is finished, so it doesn't need to check every time it is finished or not. Now that we have a general understanding of what is an async endpoint is, we can see how we can deploy a asynchronous endpoint in Amazon SageMaker. So here I have a Jupyter notebook. You can find the link to this notebook in the description of the video. It's really looks like a typical SageMaker training job. You need to import some packages. You need to define the IAM role, S3 bucket, and a folder name in that S3 bucket. And here we download a toy dataset. It's the California housing dataset from a scalar. And it is a tabular dataset, and we are going to use it for a regression problem with a SageMaker XGBoost algorithm. Here we download it and upload it to S3 in the specified bucket. In the next step, we need to create an SageMaker model. Here it's an XGBoost model. We set the container URI and also set some hyperparameter for our XGBoost model. And finally, we fit it. So it will start a training job and train an XGBoost model for us. After training is finished, we can go and create a real-time endpoint. It's the typical way. It's not asynchronous, and you just need to use the deploy method of your train model. You specify the instance count and the instance type, and you can use it as for your predictions. The creation of an async endpoint is a little bit more complex. You need to pass an async inference config along with other parameters to the deploy method. Here we created a really simple async config. It can be more complex, and we just put the output S3 bucket that we will use for our prediction. We will store that result in that S3 bucket, and we pass it as an argument to the deploy function. And as you can see here, we don't use the predict instance here. We use the predict async. And the difference is that it doesn't return an actual response. It's return the output pass only. And we will use this output path. It's an actually it's an S3 bucket URI, and we will use that with this helper function to for every 10 seconds we check if that object exists in the specified address or not. And if it's not still there, it means that it is still processing or still in the queue. And if it will be there, you can see the result here. And after that, we will clean up and make sure that our endpoint is deleted. So this was it. We had an overview of what asynchronous inference means, and we also deployed an XGBoost model with an asynchronous inference in SageMaker. I hope you find it useful. If you have any question or concept, just contact me at ali@dataShift.co or just in the comments below.